ありがとうございます。
Thank
では
you.
どうぞ。
Go ahead.
時事通信社の大月です。よろしくお願いし
I
ま
am
す。
Otsuki
小
of
山
Jiji
さんにお
Press.
伺いしたいんです
My
けれど
question
も、
is to Mr.
中東
Koyama.
地域との関わりの重要性だったり、
The
付
importance of
随
the
して
engagement
複
with
雑
the
化
Middle
する
East and
課題
also
とし
the
て重要鉱物につ
complex
いてお話しいただいたんです
challenges
が、
entailed, and you
重要鉱物
mentioned
について生産
critical
はな
minerals
か
on
なか
this
難
matter.
しい
The
と思うんで
production
す
might
が、
be
製錬だっ
difficult
た
for
り輸
Japan,
送の
but
面
the
で
refinement
中
and
東と
the
連携して
logistics
サプライチェーンの強靭
can be
化を
something that Japan
進
can
めていく動
pursue
きがあるのか、すでにそうした動きがあ
for
る
the
のかというのを教え
resilience
てい
of
た
the
だきたい
supply
です。
chain. Is this
ご質問ありがとうございます。
already
この点は
ongoing?
本日の資料
Thank
で
you for your
は、
question.
保坂の方のですね、
With regard to this
岸田
matter,
総理の先般の中東訪問というところに関連いたしますけれど
Mr.
も、
Hosaka has mentioned in his presentation Prime Minister's visit to the Middle East, and this is about a comprehensive economic partnership with the Middle East, including critical minerals.
もちろん
That's going to be pursued. But this issue cannot be resolved as long as we are only reliant on any particular region or country. We always have to look for ways for partnership, comprehensive partnership globally. Otherwise, we cannot achieve the diversification.
ちょうどですね、中東石油に依存しているっていう
We
のは、
have been dependent on the Middle East oil because
依存という
their
体質が生
oil
まれるわけで、
is the most
じゃあそれを
affordable and
なんとか
most
多様化しようと思っ
competitive.
て、
And
過去本当50年間くらいいろんなところでいわゆる非 OPEC や
we've
非
been
中
working
東
hard
供給
to
拡大っていうのをやってきたわけです。でも
diversify
結果的に言うとそんなに簡単でないっていうのがやっぱり分かってるわけです。
by
そうする
sourcing,
と
for
やはり
example,
経済
from the
性を持って開
non-OPEC
発できる
countries,
ところ
but
の
it
強み
was
っていうのが
not as easy
ただ
as
し
it seemed.
だからといって
So
それだけで
economic efficiency is always the priority, but if we are only looking at the economic efficiency, we might be repeating the same mistakes. So with some cost, even with some cost, we need to pursue the diversification, trying to get the have the partnerships with other countries like Australia, Central and South America, and Canada. And that's going to be the strategy of Japan and any other countries.
個人会の中西と言います。
I am Nakanishi. I am an individual member, and my question is to Mr. Koyama. Lately,
あんまり聞かないんですけども、
I no longer
アメリカ
hear
のオイルショーっていう
this
のがありますよ
a
ね。
lot,
で
but
これかつ
the
て
American
10年ぐらい前ですね、
shale oil, I think it was like 10 years ago, America said that they would no longer need to import oil thanks to the shale oil. And I think a Japanese electric company was also importing their oil from the west coast. But I no longer hear this news lately a lot.
サウジの問題減産の中でですね、
But because of this Russian issue and Saudi Arabia's production cut of oil, shale oil, I wonder, can it be the supplemental source of energy?
良くないんだみたいなことも言われているようですけども、
Looks like it is considered as detrimental to the environment, but you know, $19 per barrel can be the break-even point for the feasibility. So can this be a key to turning around the supply-demand balance of the oil market? Thank you for your question. You're right. The shale energy resources like shale oil and shale gas, both of them are important, and the pace of the production growth is not as fast as 10 years ago, the last 10 years, especially the shale oil. The production growth will slow down compared to the last 10 years because the supplier used to focus on the volume of the production. However, now they are focusing more on the investment efficiency. So their focus has shifted. Therefore, production volume will increase, but the pace of growth will slow down. On the other hand, as for gas, we have the big gas shortage issue, and the LNG
供給を立ち上げるための投資が行われて、
is
これは
in
時間はかか
shortage.
りますけれども、
So
まあ
now
3
the
年後
investment
4年後ぐらい
is
には
done,
供給
being
プロ
done,
ジェクトとして大
and
量
it
の
will
ものが
take
立ち上がってくる
2 or 3 years, but
そういう意味で
you will
アメ
see
リカ
a
の
big
シェール
increase
開
of
発というの
the
が
project
石油市
for
場や
production.
あるいはガス
The
LNG 市場
gas
の
and
需給バランスの均衡化あるいは改善というところに
it will
極め
have
て大き
a
な要素であり続けるというふうに
it will play a big role in turning around the supply-demand balance
来年
of the
2024年以
market.
降のところの
And
石油市場の
I mentioned
需給
earlier,
がやや緩んでくる
2024 and
というところ
after,
には
the
アメリカも含めた企業
market
との
will
生産拡大
get
というのが
looser.
私は重要になってくる
And I think
という
it's,
ことを
I said it's because the production volume will increase not only in the US as well as the non-OPEC countries. I am a journalist from Japan Times, and I have a question to Mr. Hosaka. You said during the oil crisis there were about 30 Arabists, but there was no expert on the Gulf state, and the interest in the Middle East is not as high as it should be. So why the interest is low, and what should be done to raise the interest? Well, this is actually a convenient question for us. And it is true that the interest in the Middle East countries, it became very high during the oil crisis in 1973, but once the crisis was over, people lost interest. That was the repeated pattern. When the crisis, during the crisis, experts go and appear in the media and talk about it, but once the terrorism is resolved or war is over, the people lose interest. So that's the pattern, and I want to break this pattern. But with that said, this is not something the researchers can resolve single-handed. The media has a big role to play. It's not only about the Japanese media, but also the Western media. Media covers the Middle East only for the negative news like coup d'etat and terrorism or wars and other conflicts. So I think that they need to cover constantly to give more depth and dimension to the information on the Middle East. And the researchers like us need more support, for example, through publishing, and that support will be much appreciated. In particular, young researchers, they cannot even find jobs. They struggle a lot. So if you can support them, that would be great, and media can play a role in that by hiring them in the media. So because I am the president of Japan Association for Middle East Studies, so it's actually my request to you guys, and I want to make this my answer to your question. Thank you for your question. I have one question online from Mr. Hori, individual member, to Mr. Koyama. Hiroshima G7 communique says greenhouse gas emission for 2030, the reduction target for 2035 is 60% compared to 2019 level. How will Japan achieve this target? This is a very, very challenging target. Japan's energy mix target for 2030 is for 46 emission reduction, but this baseline is 2013 when the emission level was very high. Still, this is a very challenging target, not easy to achieve.
これは
So
ですね、逆に言うと、
60% reduction target, that is a requirement to achieve to meet 1.5 degree C
これは
target.
本当に今の状
So
況、あるいは
looking at the
30
current
年
situation
のエネルギーミックス
and
目標
also the
という
energy
ところから
mix
見ても、
target
本
for
当に
2030,
大変な
this
課題
is
であっ
a
て、
very
本当に
big
どうやったら
challenge,
ここに届くの
and
かな
I
という
have
と
to
ころ
wonder
に
how
なる
we
のかなという
can
ふうに
get
思いま
there.
す。もちろん
And
エネ
of
ルギーミック
course,
ス目標で
the energy
掲げ
mix
ている
target,
個別エネルギーの目標はすべて
the each
超過達成
item,
という
each
こと
target
が
has
必
to
要
be
になるので、そ
overachieved
れが
to
どのよ
get
う
there.
にできるの
But
か、現
how
時点で私は
can
こ
we
うすればで
get
きる
there?
というようなと
I
ころを
actually do
持
not
ち合わ
have
せ
a
ているという
clear
状況で
answer
は
to
ないという
this
ふうに
question.
お答えせざるを得ないかなと思います。
はい、それでは、今日は
Alright.
予定してい
So,
た時間が今参りま
The
したの
time
で、
is up,
記
so
者会見ここ
we
ま
are
でと
going
させて
to
いただきます
close this press
非常に
conference.
密度が濃く、
It
そ
was
してハ
a
イレベル
very
で
informative and a
いろ
very
いろとお話しさせ
high
られる
level,
記者会見だったと思い
thought-provoking
ます
press
お二
conference.
人のゲストの先生に
Please
大
give
きな拍
them
手をお願いいたし
a
ます
big round of applause.
それではこれで